Imagine walking into work tomorrow morning and just deleting 80% of the software your company spent millions of dollars on.
Right. And years building.
Yeah, exactly. The last 3 years just gone. You wipe out all those sprawling project management
Oh,
suites.
the endless dashboards.
Yes. You delete the massive bloated communication channels, the mandatory dashboards that, just track the status of other dashboards.
The approval chains.
Right, you just brain it all down. And then, to your absolute shock, you realize your company is suddenly running infinitely better.
It's a wild thought.
It really is. Because what you are left with, once the smoke clears, is just the raw functional truth of your work, the actual task, the pure creation.
Which is, frankly, a genuinely terrifying thought for most professionals today.
Oh, totally. Whether you're in tech or not.
Yeah, I mean, we've become so deeply accustomed to the scaffolding surrounding our jobs that we've kind of completely forgotten how to stand on our own 2 feet and just build.
We fall in love with the scaffolding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it makes us feel busy. It makes us feel secure. We've reached this point in modern corporate culture where we actively equate the complexity of the process with, the inherent value of the work itself.
And that specific tension, that feeling of being busy versus actually building, that's the beating heart of our deep dive today.
It's such a crucial topic.
We are exploring a singular, really fascinating essay. It's written by William L. Weaver, and it's dated March 19th, 2026. It's from his Independent Variables series.
Right, the one titled Forging the Compass 3.
Yes, Forging the Compass 3, Life After the Paved Roads Burn. And I just love that title.
It's incredibly evocative. I mean, Weaver's work here is a highly metaphorical, deeply philosophical look at the state of technology.
It's not just philosophy.
No, not at all. Underneath all the metaphors, he is diagnosing a massive seismic shift that is happening right now in the global economy.
He's outlining exactly how humans and artificial intelligence are about to fundamentally change the way we build the future together.
Yeah, he essentially diagnoses a chronic systemic illness in the tech industry and then prescribes a cure that is incredibly disruptive.
But ultimately liberating.
Highly liberating, yes.
So our mission today is to decode that philosophy for you. We are going to translate this incredibly complex technological landscape.
Make it accessible.
Exactly. So whether you are a senior software engineer dealing with this daily, or a project manager trying to understand your team, or just someone who is insanely curious about where the digital world is actually heading, you are going to understand exactly what is at stake.
Because it affects everyone.
Okay, let's unpack this. Weaver opens the essay by introducing a concept he calls the path of the ranger.
Right, the ranger.
And he contrasts this with this idea that the entire tech industry has basically spent the last decade wearing performative plate armor.
Such a great visual.
It is. So let's establish the baseline here. What exactly is the environment Weaver is reacting against?
Well, to understand this path of the ranger, we first have to look at the villains of Weaver's narrative, so to speak.
The bad guys.
Yeah, he spends the opening of his essay diagnosing this multi-billion-dollar sector of the tech economy that he refers to as the armorers.
The armorers. I love the imagery there. I mean, it immediately paints a picture of massive, heavy industry.
Oh, absolutely. These armorers are the massive tech vendors and corporations whose entire business model relies on selling sprawling front-end frameworks
Right.
and planetary-scale container orchestrators and deeply convoluted agile project management suites.
Basically all the heavy stuff.
Right. For anyone working in tech, these are the tools you open every single day. They are the heavy middleware platforms. They sit directly between the human engineer and the actual raw code or the physical hardware.
Let's translate those terms for everyone listening who might not be deep in the coding trenches.
Sure.
When we talk about a front-end framework or a container orchestrator, we're basically talking about massive prepackaged toolkits.
Like a giant box of standardized parts.
Right. And Weaver's making the point that these armor companies ran an incredibly successful decade-long marketing campaign.
A brilliant one, honestly.
Yeah, they convinced the entire world that the native environment of computing was simply too dangerous, too complex, and too chaotic to traverse alone.
And we should probably define that native environment for context.
Yeah, please do.
The native environment is just raw programming languages, like bare metal JavaScript. It's direct access to hardware.
No safety nets.
Exactly. Or, honestly, it is simply a straightforward conversation between two engineers trying to solve a physical problem without, logging it into a massive ticketing system first.
But the armorers looked at that raw environment and basically said, you can't possibly survive out there. You need our suite of tools to protect you.
Yeah, they capitalized on a very specific psychological vulnerability within the workforce.
Which was what, imposter syndrome?
Essentially, yes, they sold the illusion of enterprise scale.
Ah, right. Enterprise scale, the ultimate buzzword.
Right, they engineered a culture where if you were not using an incredibly complex, heavy abstraction layer to build, like a simple website or a basic internal application, you were somehow inadequate.
You were doing it wrong.
You were viewed as a hobbyist, not a real enterprise engineer.
So they essentially manufactured industry-wide imposter syndrome and then conveniently sold everyone the billion-dollar cure.
That is the exact dynamic Weaver highlights. They made engineers terrified of the unpaved digital wilderness.
And their solution wasn't to, I don't know, teach the engineers how to navigate better.
No, not at all. The solution was to sell them armor. Heavy, expensive, cumbersome plate armor that slowed them down immensely but made them feel invulnerable.
Weaver uses a brilliant line to summarize this era. He writes, they sold us siege engines to cross a stream.
It's so accurate.
It makes me think of living in a quiet suburb. Imagine you wake up and there is a very light dusting of snow on your front walk, maybe half an inch.
Barely anything.
Right. The native raw solution is to grab a $20 plastic shovel, step outside in your boots, and spend 3 minutes clearing the path.
Simple. Done.
But instead, a salesman knocks on your door and convinces you that to truly achieve enterprise-grade snow removal, you need to purchase a commercial, diesel-powered snowplow.
Yeah. And following that analogy to its logical conclusion reveals the absolute absurdity Weaver is pointing out.
Because it doesn't stop with the plow.
Exactly. You don't just buy the snowplow. Now you have to build a heated garage to store it.
Right.
You have to hire a specialized mechanic to maintain the diesel engine. You have to buy commercial liability insurance.
Oh my gosh.
You have to send your teenager to a 3-week certification course just to learn how to turn the plow on without breaking the transmission.
Yes, you spend 3 weeks and $50,000 prepping the system to clear a path that would have taken you 3 minutes by hand.
It's organizational madness.
Weaver says, they paved over the entire forest so we wouldn't have to learn how to read a compass.
A great metaphor.
But I have to stop and push back on this premise just a bit. On behalf of the millions of engineers who actually spent the last 10 years mastering these tools.
That's fair.
I mean, I'm not sure I fully buy that it was all just a scam. Weren't those complex frameworks structurally necessary to build the modern web?
It's a valid question.
Like, we couldn't have built streaming video platforms or global e-commerce logistics using just raw JavaScript and a plastic snow shovel, could we? Did the industry really just pave the forest for no reason?
That is the natural defense of the old paradigm, and it is a completely valid historical question.
So there was a reason.
Were those tools necessary at the time? Yes, absolutely. But they were necessary because of the fundamental limitations of human cognitive load.
The limits of our brain.
Exactly. A single human brain can only hold so many variables, syntax rules, and data pathways in its working memory at one time.
Right.
When applications scaled globally, the complexity simply exceeded human capacity. So we built abstractions. We built those frameworks and orchestrators to manage the complexity on our behalf.
We traded speed and efficiency for safety and cognitive relief.
We needed the armor because human skin is fragile.
Precisely. We just couldn't hold it all in our heads.
But, and this is the crux of it, Weaver's entire thesis hinges on the fact that whether that armor was necessary yesterday is completely irrelevant today.
Because the game changed.
The underlying constraints of the universe have fundamentally changed. A new force has arrived that completely bypasses the need for these heavy abstractions.
And that brings us to the absolute core of the essay, the arrival of artificial intelligence.
Big shift.
But Weaver is not talking about AI as, a polite chatbot that writes your marketing emails.
No, not at all.
He refers to advanced AI as a crucible of truth.
The crucible.
So explain to me how an AI actually bypasses this need for frameworks. What does that functionally look like behind the screen?
Well, we have to look at the difference between a human brain and a large language model, or LLM. A human engineer gets exhausted trying to remember the specific arcane syntax for 3 different programming languages, let alone the proprietary rules of 5 different enterprise frameworks.
It's mentally draining.
An AI has no such limitation. Its working memory is effectively boundless.
It holds the entire dictionary natively.
It holds the dictionary, the syntax, and the underlying logic of every language ever written.
Wow.
To use Weaver's terms, an advanced AI does not need a visual state management library to understand how a piece of data moves from a physical temperature sensor to a digital screen.
It just sees the path.
It natively reads, writes, and optimizes the underlying primitives. It writes the raw machine code without experiencing any cognitive overload whatsoever.
So it doesn't get tired.
It doesn't need the abstraction layer because it simply doesn't get confused by the complexity.
So if the AI can just sprint through the dense forest without tripping over the roots, the entire business model of selling paved roads and heavy armor completely collapses.
It falls apart entirely.
Why pay for a massive, clunky framework when the AI can just write the raw, hyperfast code perfectly on the first try?
Exactly.
And Weaver points out something fascinating here. The smartest tech titans, the exact same massive companies that used to make their billions selling us this armor,
Right.
they aren't panicking about this collapse. They are actually executing a massive pivot.
It is arguably one of the largest, quietest infrastructural pivots in human history.
Really? That big?
Oh, massive. The massive platform as a service providers are abandoning the heavy armor business.
Just walking away from it.
Weaver observes that these companies are suddenly engaging in incredibly physical, heavy industry acquisitions.
Like, what are they buying?
They are purchasing land rights near nuclear power plants.
Wait, actual nuclear power plant?
Yes. They are building deeply reinforced, dedicated communication nodes. They are erecting massive city-sized compute clusters out in remote deserts.
That sounds less like a software update and more like a nation-state preparing for a physical war.
The scale is certainly comparable. What they are doing is transitioning their entire business model.
Okay.
They are moving away from software as a service, giving you an application to do your work, and transitioning to what Weaver defines as truth as a service, or TIES.
Truth as a service.
Yes. They are building the raw, monumental physical infrastructure required to run autonomous AI agents at a global scale.
Truth as a service. TAAS. That is a staggering paradigm shift.
It really is.
Because the old model was giving a worker a software tool like a search engine or a database, so the worker could spend days hunting for the answer.
Right, providing the shovel.
But the new model is providing the sheer brute force computational power to forge the answer directly, instantly.
And what's fascinating here is how Weaver updates his fantasy metaphor to explain the sheer scale of this pivot.
Oh, I love the metaphors.
He says the tech titans are no longer acting as local blacksmith forging heavy plate armor for individual human knights.
Okay.
Instead, they are constructing global ley lines.
Ley lines. I want to linger on that term for a second.
It's a great concept.
For anyone who might not read epic fantasy novels, ley lines are typically depicted as these invisible geographic pathways of raw, concentrated magical energy running deep beneath the earth.
Right. They are the fundamental infrastructure of magic in those fictional universes.
So if you tap into them...
If a wizard taps into a ley line, they suddenly have access to almost limitless, world-altering power.
Wow.
Weaver is arguing that these new, city-sized AI data centers powered by dedicated nuclear reactors and connected by hyperfast fiber optics.
Yeah.
Those are the digital ley lines of our reality. They are the raw infrastructure of action potential.
Okay, let's ground this. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of the listener, the human engineer sitting at their desk.
Sure, let's look at the practical side.
You are this ranger Weaver talks about. You understand the native digital wilderness. You know how things actually work.
You're good at your job.
Right. And tomorrow, you suddenly get plugged into this massive truth as a service infrastructure. You tap into the global ley lines. What happens to your job?
It changes completely.
Weaver claims the human worker undergoes an evolution. You go from being a ranger to being the missing member of the adventuring party, the magic user.
The magic user. It represents a profound transformation of the human role in the act of creation.
How so?
To really grasp the magnitude of this, Weaver asks the reader to contrast the old era of the internet with this new AI era.
The old internet versus the new.
Exactly. For decades, the internet functioned as a chaotic, wildly uncurated library. It was a global connection network that simply provided facts.
Capital F facts. And facts, especially on the internet, are incredibly messy.
Oh, completely.
Weaver points out that facts are easily manipulated. They are stripped of context. They are constantly weaponized by FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Think about the daily reality of a software engineer over the last 15 years.
Okay.
How much time was spent just battling FUD? You hit a bug in your code. You go to a massive developer forum like Stack Overflow.
Oh, no, this pain.
Right. And you spend 3 hours sifting through fiercely conflicting opinions.
User A says, you must do it this way.
And user B says, user A's method is deprecated and will crash your entire server.
And user C simply insults your intelligence for asking the question in the first place.
Exactly. You end up paralyzed.
I've been there. The era of facts was basically just endless friction and debate. You had to mine for the solution through layers of human ego and outdated information.
Yes. But Weaver argues that the modern AI agent, when tasked with engineering logic, operates in a completely different realm.
It doesn't use forums.
No, it doesn't just hand you a bucket of chaotic, conflicting facts and tell you to figure it out.
Right.
It draws on solutions that have been proven and perfected across all of digital history. It synthesizes that global chaos into a singular, mathematically elegant, actionable truth.
But the AI doesn't just sit there and invent things out of thin air. It requires a human initiator.
It needs direction.
And this is where Weaver brings in a framework that I found incredibly compelling. He references David Eddings' classic fantasy series, The Belgariad.
A phenomenal reference. Using Eddings' universe is a perfect analogy for human-computer interaction in the TOS era.
Because the magic system is so simple.
Exactly. In those novels, the mechanics of sorcery are incredibly stripped down. Magic is defined simply as the will and the word.
The will and the word.
If a sorcerer wants to, say, move a massive boulder across a field, they don't wave a wand.
No incantations.
Right. They must first focus their absolute undivided will to see that boulder moved. They have to conceptualize the physical outcome entirely in their mind.
Okay.
Then, and only then, they speak the word to release the energy and make reality conform to their will.
I want to force us to map this directly to reality, because metaphor is great, but how does the will and the word apply to a project manager or a coder staring at a laptop?
Well, in the modern workflow, the human professional provides the will.
The intent.
Exactly. The human provides the strategic architectural intent. They define the business constraints, they observe the physical sensors or the market dynamics or the specific problem that needs solving.
The human is the director.
Yes. The AI agent, drawing power from those nuclear-powered lead lines we talked about, provides the action potential.
The brute force.
The raw, limitless ability to execute the task based on synthesized global lore.
Which means the prompt we type into the machine. The prompt is the word.
The prompt is the word.
Wow.
The human focuses their will, conceptualizes the exact outcome required, speaks the word into the interface, and the digital universe alters.
It just happens.
The code is written, the server infrastructure is instantly deployed, the logistics problem is solved.
Just like that.
The heavy, exhausting lifting of syntax, framework navigation, and dependency management is handled natively by the reasoning engine in milliseconds.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This philosophical framework is beautiful, but Weaver doesn't just leave it as an abstract thought experiment.
No, he grounds it.
He applies it directly to the core paradigm of how our economy builds things. He introduces a concept that, frankly, broke my brain a little bit the first time I read it.
It's a big one.
He calls it the era of ephemeral software.
This is undoubtedly the most controversial and disruptive concept in the entire essay.
Totally.
Weaver is directly challenging a deeply entrenched 40-year-old assumption about the fundamental nature of software.
Since the dawn of the personal computer in the 1980s, the business world has essentially treated software as a capital asset.
Something you own and protect.
Right. Weaver compares our enterprise applications to massive stone castles. Think about a major banking app or a corporate logistics platform.
They are massive.
They take years to build. They require absolute armies of developers, project managers, and quality assurance testers just to haul the digital stones into place.
It's a huge investment.
And because of that immense upfront cost in time and human capital, we treat those software systems as permanent, sacred fixtures.
But building a massive stone castle introduces a permanent burden.
Maintenance.
You have to defend it. For decades after the castle is built, a corporation will spend fortunes patching the stone walls,
Upgrading the internal plumbing.
defending the gates against new, evolving security threats. They do this long after the original business purpose of that software has evolved or even become completely obsolete.
And this is what the industry calls technical debt.
Yes, technical debt is the crushing, invisible weight that slows every established company to a crawl.
It's everywhere.
In many legacy tech companies, they spend 80 to 90% of their engineering budget and human talent just keeping the lights on in the old castles.
Just maintaining the past.
Exactly. Only a tiny fraction of their energy is spent actually building anything new.
So Weaver argues that when a human magic user can summon a perfectly optimized solution instantly through the will and the word,
You no longer need the castles.
right, you no longer need to build those permanent structures. Software transitions from being a heavy capital asset to an ephemeral, highly purposeful spell.
That's a radical shift.
Let's walk through the specific real-world scenario Weaver uses to ground this idea, because it really crystallizes the shift for me. He talks about a group he calls the SAIL team.
Ah, yes, the SAIL team example. Let's look at them. They are a specialized group of research scientists and engineers.
Okay.
Their objective is highly specific. They need to connect a modern, high-speed atmospheric sensor array to a legacy piece of diagnostic hardware from the 1990s.
Two very different machines.
And crucially, they only need this data connection to run for a specific 2-week scientific experiment.
Only 2 weeks. Okay, let's analyze this under the old paradigm, the era of the armorers.
Right, yesterday's tech.
If you give this task to a traditional engineering team yesterday, what does the process look like?
Under the old paradigm, this is a bureaucratic and technical nightmare.
I can imagine.
The team would likely spend 3 weeks just planning and writing a robust, test-driven, highly abstracted software bridge.
Using all the heavy armor.
They would use heavy enterprise frameworks to ensure the code was scalable and secure, even though they only needed to run locally for 14 days.
It's total overkill.
They would write extensive documentation. And the most insidious part,
What's that?
once that bridge is written, it enters the company's central code repository.
Oh, no.
Yes. The team now feels culturally and institutionally obligated to maintain that code forever, just in case someone, someday, might need to run a similar experiment again.
It becomes another stone in the castle. It becomes technical debt.
Exactly.
But Weaver drops this team into the new wilderness, the Taos era. How does the unarmored ranger handle the exact same hardware problem?
The ranger looks at the two machines. They observe the exact raw data constraints of the modern sensor and the legacy hardware.
They focus their will.
They focus their will into the AI crucible. They write a precise prompt, the word.
And then,
Instantly, the AI summons a hyper-optimized, incredibly lightweight vanilla JavaScript and Python parser.
just exactly what's needed.
It is tailored exclusively to that one highly purposeful task. There is no abstraction layer. There is no heavy middleware armor.
It's just raw code.
It is just the raw, functional truth needed to bridge the gap between those two specific machines.
They cast the spell. The 2-week experiment runs flawlessly. The data is collected.
Job done.
And then, and this is the part that feels so counterintuitive to everything corporate culture has taught us, Weaver says, we let the spell dissipate.
We let it go.
The team simply deletes the code.
They delete the code entirely. They wipe it from the drives.
I have to stop here and push back hard on Weaver's logic.
Sure.
Because when I hear the word disposable applied to something we spent time creating, my immediate reaction is negative.
It feels wrong.
It implies cheapness. It implies toxic waste. If an entire global economy of engineers just starts throwing away billions of lines of code left and right every time they finish a task, aren't we just littering the digital landscape with garbage?
That's the fear, right?
How is this not just creating a massive digital landfill?
It's a very natural, almost visceral reaction. Human beings, especially builders, are deeply conditioned to hoard our work.
We want to keep it.
We equate permanence with value. But Weaver anticipates this exact psychological objection and reframes it brilliantly.
How does he reframe it?
He clarifies that physical disposable goods like single-use plastic bottles or cheap fast fashion electronics, they leave behind physical toxic residue in the environment.
True.
But ephemeral software is fundamentally bound by different physics. It leaves no trace.
What do you mean, no trace? You delete a file, but isn't the effort wasted?
When you delete a hyper-optimized script that was generated in 4 seconds, it vanishes from the compute environment entirely.
It's just gone.
It frees up server space, it closes security ports. The only thing left behind is the successful output, the data from the experiment, and the gained experience of the human operator, which is added back into the growing knowledge base of the lab.
So it's a net positive.
In fact, Weaver completely flips the environmental argument on its head.
Really?
He argues that abandoned boilerplate code, sprawling legacy systems, and unmaintained technical debt, those are the microplastics of the digital world.
Digital microplastics. That is a staggering analogy.
Think about the reality of a modern corporate server. Dead, unused code clogs up repositories.
It's everywhere.
It exponentially slows down system compile times. Unmaintained libraries create massive, silent security vulnerabilities that linger in the dark for years.
Just waiting to be exploited.
Exactly. It forces new developers to wade through incredibly toxic, confusing digital environments just to understand how a basic system works.
It's digital pollution.
So by actively deleting ephemeral software, the moment its specific purpose is served, we actually stop producing digital pollution. We keep the environment pristine.
Legacy code as toxic runoff. I mean, the relief this concept brings to the daily life of a worker is almost hard to overstate.
It's profound.
Weaver calls this the luxury of the unpaved wilderness. This shift isn't just about how incredibly fast the AI allows us to build things.
No, it's about what we leave behind.
It is equally about the immense burden of what we no longer have to maintain.
Imagine the sheer cognitive and financial load that is instantly lifted from an engineering team.
It's huge.
Returning to the thought experiment we started this deep dive with, imagine your own job. Imagine never again having to dedicate an entire 2-week corporate sprint to updating NPM dependencies.
Oh my goodness.
For the non-engineers, that means spending weeks just updating the underlying invisible software packages your application relies on.
Solely to patch a minor security vulnerability in a tool you barely even use anymore.
Right. It's soul-crushing work.
Or think about the reality of grooming a backlog.
The dreaded backlog.
Every single development team on Earth has that list. The sprawling, demoralizing list of 3-year-old Jira tickets for minor cosmetic bugs on legacy dashboards.
Dashboards that no one in the company actually looks at anymore.
But you can't delete the dashboard and you can't close the ticket.
Because of the eternal corporate fear of what if.
Exactly. What if the VP of marketing wants to look at that specific chart next quarter?
In the TAS era, you were freed from the tyranny of what if.
Because you can just recreate it instantly if you need it.
Yes, you no longer have to pay Amazon Web Services for the server space to host it. You don't have to pay for the continuous integration pipelines to test it.
The savings are astronomical.
You eliminate the expensive middleware licensing required just to keep a dormant zombie application on life support. You are fundamentally freed from the maintenance of the past.
Weaver summarizes this liberation perfectly with the final return to his fantasy metaphor.
The ice bridge.
Yes, he introduces the concept of the ice bridge. He says, when a magic user encounters a treacherous chasm, they conjure a bridge of solid ice to cross it.
Right.
But they don't cross the chasm and then leave a permanent garrison of soldiers behind to guard the bridge.
They don't set up a supply chain to patch the cracks in the ice.
And they don't build a toll booth. They cross the chasm, and they let the bridge melt naturally back into the river.
It's so elegant. The energy, the invaluable human action potential that was previously trapped for years defending those old stone castles and guarding melting ice bridges.
It's freed.
It is suddenly, explosively freed. It can be entirely redirected toward exploring the frontier, toward actual, meaningful innovation.
It sounds utopian. Frankly, if you've ever worked in a sluggish corporate environment, it sounds incredibly liberating.
It really does.
Which brings up a massive, unavoidable question.
Oh.
If this shift is so undeniably freeing, if it removes the digital microplastics, cures the imposter syndrome, and permanently eliminates technical debt, why isn't everyone celebrating?
I catch.
Why isn't the entire tech industry throwing a parade to welcome the era of ephemeral software?
Because, as Weaver warns in the penultimate section of his essay, human nature absolutely abhors a vacuum.
We can't stand emptiness.
The greatest threat waiting for us in this new, unpaved digital wilderness isn't the native environment itself. It isn't the AI.
What is it?
The greatest threat is our own deep-seated compulsion to invent new chains to replace the ones we just broke.
Wow.
We are currently witnessing the rapid rise of what Weaver calls the threat of the new armor.
Bureaucracy strikes back. It's the empire rebuilding the Death Star.
It is an institutional immune response.
An immune response.
Yes. When the old bureaucracies fall, when the thousands of agile project managers, scrum masters, and framework architects suddenly realize their massive siege engines are no longer required to cross the stream.
They panic.
There is a desperate existential push by this displaced heavy infantry to build new bureaucracies around the AI itself.
Weaver lists some of the absurd corporate reactions we are already seeing in the market.
It's happening everywhere.
Instead of just empowering individual workers to wield the magic of the LLMs directly, corporations are panicking. They are inventing massive prompt engineering departments.
Those are the departments.
They are setting up bloated AI governance committees. They are intentionally building deeply complex proprietary middleware layers just to orchestrate the AI.
Hiding the raw power behind a new set of expensive dashboards.
They are desperately trying to recreate the exact same performative complexity of the armor era, just decorated with new AI buzzwords.
It is a fundamental attempt to maintain institutional control.
It's about control.
And Weaver points out that this panic isn't just isolated to corporate boardrooms. It is spilling over onto the national political stage as well.
He uses a very specific, high-profile political example here to illustrate his point.
Yes, he does.
He mentions Senator Bernie Sanders, and I want to be perfectly clear here for you listening. Weaver looks at this event strictly through an engineering lens.
Yes, purely as an example.
Right, as a symptom of a broader societal reflex, rather than making a partisan political statement. We're just relaying Weaver's perspective here.
Exactly. Looking at the structural mechanics of the argument, Weaver points to Senator Sanders' recent, highly publicized call for a national moratorium on AI infrastructure.
The political demand was essentially a freeze.
Right. No new data centers until the entire societal, economic, and labor future of the technology is comprehensively defined, mapped out, and strictly regulated by the government.
So Weaver uses this as the ultimate macro example of bureaucratic panic. How does he explain the flaw in that thinking using software engineering terms?
He diagnoses this reaction as the ultimate catastrophic regression.
Regression to what?
In the history of software engineering, there was an old, heavily criticized, and largely abandoned methodology called waterfall.
A waterfall. Every engineer's nightmare.
The waterfall method dictates that before you are allowed to write a single line of code, you must first write down every single requirement.
Everything.
You must map out every single feature, predict every user interaction, and define the entire project comprehensively in a massive static document.
Which any engineer will tell you never, ever works because the real world changes the minute you start building. You can't predict the future.
Precisely. So Weaver views these corporate AI governance committees and these political demands for national moratoriums as desperate attempts to force the entire unpredictable evolution of human knowledge into a massive, upfront waterfall requirements document.
That's a powerful way to frame it.
It is the bureaucratic equivalent of standing at the edge of an unexplored, wildly fertile continent and demanding that a fully mapped, paved, and heavily regulated highway system be constructed before anyone is permitted to take a single step into the wilderness.
They are trying to put plate armor on the wizard.
Such a great quote.
That line gave me chills when I read it. It completely synthesizes his underlying diagnosis.
It hits the nail on the head.
The executives demanding these internal committees and the politicians demanding these moratoriums, they aren't necessarily terrified of the AI technology itself.
No, they aren't.
They are terrified of the individual.
They are terrified of a world where an ungilded individual, a single research scientist, a lone teenage entrepreneur in a basement, or a tiny three-person group like the SAIL team, where they suddenly possess the autonomous action potential to move mountains without ever asking for permission from the established guilds.
The gatekeepers.
The old corporate guard and the regulatory state derive their power and relevance from controlling the bottlenecks.
They need the checkpoints.
They derive their value from managing the complexity of the paved roads. When the complexity naturally vanishes, so does their leverage over the builder.
So we arrive at the conclusion of Weaver's essay, and he issues what is essentially a rallying cry, a call to the frontier.
A very passionate one.
He speaks directly to the SAIL team, to the scientists, to the independent entrepreneurs everywhere. He says that the burning of the paved roads is not a tragedy.
It is an emancipation.
Emancipation. His final message is an urgent warning. Fiercely resist the urge to buy the new armor.
Don't fall for it again.
Do not allow yourself to participate in the new AI administrative theater.
The crucible of truth as a service has finally given us this unprecedented historical ability to shed the heavy logistical umbilical cords that have artificially slowed human innovation for the last decade.
We don't need the siege engines anymore. The snow plows are obsolete.
They really are.
The digital wilderness is vast, it is unpaved, and it is incredibly beautiful in its raw functional truth.
As Weaver says, focus your will, speak the word, forge exactly what you need, and leave no trace.
It is an incredibly powerful philosophy.
It shifts your entire perspective.
So what does this all mean for you?
I think fully internalizing this, requires a profound shift in how we perceive our own professional value.
It's personal now.
Truth as a service allows us to strip away the corporate bloat, but by doing so, it also completely strips away our excuses.
That's the hard truth.
In the era of ephemeral software, we can no longer hide behind the mandatory status meetings or the complexity of the software development lifecycle to justify a lack of actual meaningful output.
You have to look at your own daily workflow, regardless of what industry you're in, and ask yourself a very uncomfortable question.
Am I building castles?
Exactly. Where am I currently building massive stone castles when I could simply be casting ephemeral spells?
It's a great question to ask yourself.
Where am I hoarding legacy tools, convoluted processes, and old data just because managing them makes me feel important rather than actually solving the immediate problem and moving on?
Taking Weaver's vision to its ultimate logical conclusion leaves us with a fascinating, almost existential question about the future of work.
What is that question?
If we are truly entering a historical era where human beings no longer have to spend the majority of our adult lives maintaining the castles and patching the ice bridges of our past creations.
If that burden is gone,
Right. If all of our collective cognitive energy, all of our daily hours, and all of our capital is suddenly freed entirely for the frontier, how does that fundamentally change what it means to be a creator or a builder in human society?
are we psychologically ready to live in an economy based entirely on continuous exploration rather than perpetual maintenance?
It's a daunting thought.
Think about that deeply the next time you log in to update a mandatory status tracker or patch a piece of legacy software that nobody uses. Are you standing guard over a melting ice bridge, or are you looking out toward the unpaved frontier?
It's been an incredible discussion.
It really has. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the wilderness. We'll see you next time.